That was for the match.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Steelers Sanctuary podcast. I'm Leanne. I'm joined today by Dave, David, Zach, and Bob. We are here to kind of break down the very devastating loss to the horrible Dallas Cowboys yesterday. The Steelers kind of blew that game. It was like a crazy rain delay after delay last night for lightning. We had Snoop Dogg and Elon Musk in the house. I blame Elon Musk for the loss, but the Steelers blew it 20-17. What do you guys think about this game? What went wrong? What went right, if anything?
I was going to say, what didn't go wrong?
The rug was pulled out from under my feet. The last time I remember watching the Steelers play Dallas, it was the same thing. We got a really dramatic last-minute touchdown, and I was really excited. And then we turned around and let them score. But this one hurt worse. Like, it's been a very long time since I have just shut the TV off and literally just gone and laid in bed. Like, it's been a while, and that's all I could do. And it hurt. Like, this one really hurt. So I don't know where you guys are, but I'm taking this one. It didn't feel better when I woke up. Say that. Did not feel better when I woke up today.
No, I think everyone's angry at this point. The coaching, the play on the field. I'm guilty as anybody. I predicted a comfortable win, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean,
we all did. All five of us predicted the Steelers would win by various margins, but all of us a solid win.
Yep, and they should have. I mean, a couple series in, Dallas lost their left tackle for the game, and I know the Steelers had a couple injuries too, but
they lost their third edge rusher too.
That too. I don't know how you guys feel. It comes down to coaching for me. Honestly, I'm getting tired of this offense and watching it struggle week after week after week. I'm tired of watching Najee Harris run into stacked lines. I'm tired of struggling for completions and scores. It shouldn't be this hard anymore. This is week 5 now with a new offensive coordinator who's supposed to be an improvement over Matt Canada, and I'm not seeing it. And they're averaging 18 points a game. That's 0.2 of a point better than last year.
I'm come to a point where I've got to stop thinking this team is ever going to squash another team hurting again. Like, we have to get past the whole, it's the Steelers, it's a team limping into the game, they're going to crush them. The Steelers just don't do that anymore, period. They haven't done something like that, I think, since Ben. They're just not that kind of team anymore. They don't go in there and they don't squash these teams that are just injured all over the place. They always continue to play down to them, or it's always close, or down to the last second. It's never a comfortable win, and it hasn't been for such a long time. Now I'm never going to pick them to win big ever again. Not for a while.
The difference is they usually pull these. Oh, God.
Even with Ben, we play down to teams. I do not remember the last time a Mike Tomlin-led team didn't play down to someone.
Carolina.
Well, that's what it's.
Yeah, that's the one we always point to, right? Carolina Thursday night. It's surprising to me when we beat teams not just that we're supposed to, like we're supposed to. Yeah. So that's why I feel like the rug was pulled out from under me, because the difference between us and the sentence I just said is, you say that about teams that are at least good, and we're a bad football team. And I think people need to say that right now and own that. We're not the kind of football team you can say should go in and do anything. Right now, we have to earn. We've lost all of that. We got to earn all of that back.
The bottom line is that we need to stop thinking in terms of teams we should beat, because there are teams on our schedule that we will win, but I was thinking about this today. So we're 3-2. Let's say we go to Vegas and win, which is no guarantee at this point. Vegas is probably about the territory that Arizona and the Patriots were last year, and we didn't do a very good job beating them. As a matter of fact, we lost. So there is a possibility this could be the 7th straight year we lose 3 games in a row. We'll talk about Mike Tomlin later, but tell me what head coach gets to lose 3 games in a row, 7 years in a row, and keep his job. We have talent on this team. Is it Super Bowl talent? I never thought it was this year. I think we're building towards that. But we year after year, three coordinators I saw today, 5 quarterbacks in a row. We're playing the same football game. We're playing not to lose. We're relying on the defense. We're doing everything to play one-score games. Where is the creativity that we were promised with Arthur Smith? I know he can do it, but where is it? I'm just so utterly upset with how we looked last night, and I don't think it's going to get any better. Just so everybody knows, I have a cold, sucking on a cough drop, so if I hesitate a little bit more than usual, please bear with me.
Same here, Bob. I got 1 and 2.
Bob falls over. We have the paramedics on the phone. We'll keep going. Make sure that he's taken care of. So, out of curiosity, who, if you guys had to just put the blame on one person or one unit or one all that, who do you think? Is there any one person who really stands out?
Arthur Smith. Because the thing is, as I said this before we started this show, I know that a lot of people are really angry at the defense. They feel like the defense should have stopped him on that last drive. And look, you're not wrong. We got the highest paid defense in the NFL. Please ignore Bentley squeaking in the background. But when your defense doesn't ever get any rest, we're right back into the bullshit we dealt with Matt Canada, where your defense is just going all the time. And so, when you've got this lopsided time battle, it doesn't matter that you win the turnover battle. We won the turnover battle big time. Like, we smashed it out of the park and then still couldn't score when we got the ball back on offense. There's a way to win games with defense, but your offense has to do something. They have to capitalize on it somehow. Every game isn't going to be like week 2 last year against the Cleveland Browns where we score like 2 defensive touchdowns or something.
Yeah, I see we got some comments in the chat already. Robert is having a hard time expressing himself, I see, with about the Steelers. Look, did they have opportunities? Yeah. And John, thanks for coming back this week, John. We appreciate it. This whole Art will never fire Tomlin. I think at some point it'll get there. The Steelers haven't fired a coach since 1968. Art fired plenty. The chief fired plenty of coaches in his time. Dan Rooney didn't fire a coach, but he wanted to fire Chuck Noll. He didn't. He let him finish out his career. He was gone before Bill Cowher, and Bill Cowher stepped down. Cowher probably would have coached another 10 years if his wife doesn't get sick. So I don't know. I don't know if you. I mean, early in his career, Tomlin had some nice things going for him, but at this point, it's just stale. It's organizational rot. They don't have any creativity. They brought in Arthur Smith, and they kept Matt Canada's assistants.
Yep. It feels to me like...
It feels like there's a... Continue. You go ahead.
It feels like Mike Tomlin's got his claws into Arthur Smith, and he's not... If there was one thing we thought Arthur Smith would be able to do is coach up a running game. I mean, that's what he's made his reputation on, and they look clueless as how to fix this run game, like clueless. And I brought this up before. Don't blame the offensive line with the injuries. This is the offensive line they pretty much expected to have, minus James Daniels. They were going to have Broderick Jones at least start the season. They were going to have Zach Frazier start. Sayamalu's back in, and they have another miserable running performance. I can't explain it. This is supposed to be Arthur Smith's strength, and it seems to be getting worse. We seem to be regressing.
I think we have to really look at, I think they tried to make this a Najee game. I disagree with the, whole premise that they tried to put this in the hands of Justin Fields. I think they tried to make it a Najee game. Another game where the only really time he looked good was a screen pass. Why are you running toss plays to Najee Harris? I don't get it.
If you say that we set up a Najee game, you just said we toss played. Any game that is legitimately a Najee game, doesn't have toss plays, doesn't have. So they did not set up Najee Harris for it. The way you set Najee Harris up is regardless how many little runs you get, because you need a quarterback that can handle it. You run them a lot in the first, you run them a lot in the second, and then the third and fourth, it starts to pay off. The Bucs did not have fantastic first and second quarters. He was a bigger back, and you ran him like you wanted to get to that third and fourth quarter. That's a Najee game. They did not run a Najee game yesterday. They let Najee down because it was the perfect setup. Who were they going to run? Shamplin and Ward behind him?
Isn't that whole
the
premise,
amount of
though?
carries?
Honestly, I thought Shampkin ran the ball better.
That's
that's
90s
not
football,
the point.
guys.
That is not the point. That was perfectly set up for us to get to what the only reason we have Najee on this team is to run those kind of games, and we didn't do it. We didn't run where he needed to. And when we did, I saw the energy. I saw the push Najee had. There was not many backs that could get the extra 3-4 yards he got on the end of some of those. So Najee was ready for what he thought was going to be a game more focused on him. But I absolutely foundationally and spiritually disagree with the fact that they gave Najee the kind of game he needed to succeed.
He's only averaging 3 yards a carry, though. This is the second game in a row where his average yards per carry is not good.
Yet again, the toss plays and he's not when you're asking a fish to climb a tree, he's going to look like an idiot.
Okay.
I mean, you have to take that into account.
We've been asking him for 4 years, Zach.
He's not that kind of back, Bob. We have Warren for that. We have
okay.
And
so
we didn't
why
have
in
them.
4 years have we not figured that out?
He's the only back in 4 years to have the kind of production he's had, the consistent production we've had. Hey, it's my mother chiming in, and I'm glad she gets to see my apoplectic.
Hi, Mom.
So, but
But the fact that we're arguing about this
Najee,
for this long is about, this is 90s football they're running. You're talking about Jerome Bettis and how he would wear defenses down. Who does that anymore?
Look, the reality is that it doesn't matter. People want to point fingers at Najee Harris. Well, he didn't do this, and he runs into a wall, or Justin Fields this, or somebody should have made the catch. The reality is you back all of that up, and it goes to what Arthur Smith is planning. It's not like we were all sitting on our couches last night, mind blown at the fucking plays that were being called. I mean, there were so many plays. You're like, why is that what you're doing? Like, why are we running Shamplin, or however you say his name, on it? 3rd and 8, it's critical. Like, why? And not just Shamplin. Like, why would you be running Najee or anybody else? Like, the plays didn't make sense to me. So I keep taking it back to that like, I don't know if this is part of that. The national media and the Pittsburgh media keep talking about this idea that, Tomlin wants to run this like uber conservative offense with Justin Fields. And so if that's what it is, then at what point do you say, whether it's Tomlin or Smith or I don't care who, hey, this isn't working. Do you know what I mean? We're not adapting. We're not modifying. Okay, Dallas figured this out. We realized that about 8 minutes in. Do you know what I mean? We're not tricking them. So we need to modify and change. I said to somebody the other day that the reason that Alabama got beat this past weekend is because they had their number and they adapted and changed, and Alabama didn't. It's why Georgia almost beat them the weekend before. And the Steelers are in that same boat where you look good and maybe you get a lead or maybe you score, but you can't maintain it because you don't change anything and everybody around you does.
I thought the 3rd and 8 sweep call in the red zone, instead of going to put the dagger in the early to get up high on more points, was just an absolute microcosm. What's wrong with this team? What we call plays? Like,
but we've been asking for change.
I'm like, what? You tried to run it on the outside with a sweep on 3rd and 8? What are you doing? Like,
with the practice squad running back,
right?
Yes, a guy who was literally like on his couch 2 weeks ago or something. Like,
dude, if you get the first down and then score a touchdown, and worst case scenario, say you don't get it, right? Or say you go for it on 4th, don't get it. You've got a bazillion-dollar defense and got them pinned back, way back. Like, it's a good scenario either way. It made no sense, but in the end, it does make sense because this is what they fucking do.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 4 years now. We want change. We are all demanding change, Ever since Ben retired, this is the offense they want. This is what they want.
Even Ben's last year.
Yeah. And when they were doing the offensive coordinator search, Dave and I went through a bunch of names, and there was a lot of talented people out there that we wanted and sophisticated passing games. And
Clint Kubiak.
Yep. And when they hired Arthur Smith, I told
Ding, ding,
Dave,
ding.
this is the best guy for what Mike Tomlin wants to do. Because he doesn't want the fancy San Francisco offense. He doesn't want the Sean McVay offense. He wants the Mike Tomlin offense. And Arthur Smith ran some version of that in Tennessee. The problem is this wide receiver group makes that Tennessee wide receiver group look like the greatest show on turf. It's so bad. No one fears the Steelers passing game. No one. You can have 8 in the box and not worry about it. One safety over the top to make sure George Pickens doesn't beat you, and the rest, forget it. It's man-to-man coverage, and they're shut down.
I see Charlotte's got a question about who do we think can produce like Najee. How about Jalen Warren? How about Cordarrelle Patterson? I honestly thought Shampkin ran the ball better. Rico Dowdell rushed for 90 yards against our defense. I'm pretty sure we can find a running back who can just slam into the line.
Bob, you say that, but Najee's the only back in the last 3 years to pass 1,000 yards in the NFL. So you say that, but we're getting consistency, just not the kind that everyone wants from a running back.
More designed for Najee, whatever it is. And look, I'm not a running back expert. Do you know what I mean? But he was able to be productive at Alabama. So, and we've seen him be productive in Pittsburgh. So why aren't we designing something that works for him, whatever that is, you know what I mean? That isn't him running into players, because to me, it always feels like the whole thing is schemed up wrong and is not just like Najee's like, fuck it, I'm going to run into this guy.
Well, for me, it's not, it's just lately he's been struggling more.
Yes.
This season is my thing. Not when you got 3 1,000-yard seasons in a row, you're doing good in my opinion. But however, this season
in his career where he's averaged 4 yards per carry.
Really,
well, that's the point. 1,000-yard season, in an 18-game schedule, when you're doing it 3 yards at a clip, it's not very impressive.
You say that, but I go exactly.
It's
exactly that's the point.
Yards a game.
If it's that easy, everyone would be doing it.
If somebody
Thank you, Dave.
done
If it's that easy,
my thing is
every other
lately,
NFL back would do it.
My thing is though that lately he's been struggling. That's my thing. We can talk about before, but my man was putting up 1,000 yards a season before. This season, the average per carry has went down.
Yes,
and that's what's troubling to me, is that lately he's struggling.
So how can our running back be worse under Arthur Smith, who's like this genius running game, than he was under freaking Matt Canada, who came from like Filene's basement or something?
Oh, there's one
we
constant.
upgraded our quarterback. We're supposed to upgrade our quarterback. So
we've seen bursts from Cordarrelle Patterson when he's in the game as an effective running game.
But Bob, that's a change of pace thing. I legitimate, and not only that, when Cordarrelle Patterson is in, Cordarrelle Patterson is a receiving threat. So the defense isn't sure if it's rush or pass, and when it's Najee, it's 8-man boxes. And they're still running Najee into it because Justin apparently can't check out. So
that's the thing we should talk about too.
Not allowed.
He doesn't have the freedom to check out of these plays.
There's a lot. It's schematic. It's foundational here, and you need a quarterback that can. I don't know where to put them in, because you need a quarterback that can turn around and make up for it when the first 2 runs or the 2 runs out of those 3 don't work, and we're not doing it right now.
But this isn't something that Arthur Smith had in Atlanta. He let Desmond Ridder audible. Where do you think that's coming from? Because where have we heard quarterbacks can't audible before? Matt Canada. So maybe did we give Matt Canada too much grief when Arthur Smith has the same thing now? And if Justin Fields can't audible, Kenny Pickett couldn't audible, Mason Rudolph couldn't audible, Mitch Trubisky couldn't audible. Ben didn't care if you told him he couldn't audible. Yeah. He would do it anyway.
Guys, this has one common denominator.
Yep.
Mike Tomlin.
Yep.
Period.
This next comment from Dart Sniper makes me think maybe we should transition for a minute to our other problem child on offense, George Pickens. Yep. There has been like a ton that's come out about him over the past 24 hours. He showed up for the game yesterday with eye black on that said something like always fucking open. And I'm sure he'll get a nice little fine from the league tomorrow for that, along with his helmet ripping off antics at the end of the game. He was really upset. I was telling the group when we first were prepping for the show today that Mark Caboli said he watched with binoculars yesterday from the stands because he was getting these like Ben AB vibes where, you know, he and Justin Fields weren't talking to each other. And he said that George Pickens came off the field, sit down on the bench, and the player got up, his teammate got up and moved away from him, went and sat by the punter. He wouldn't name who the player was. And then Pickens leaves, goes back out to the field or whatever, comes back out, sits down on another bench next to another teammate who also gets up and walks away from him. So Caboli said that in his opinion, he felt like last week against the Colts, Pickens was kind of giving away what the play was. He was kind of dogging it and giving up what the play was going to be. And he feels like Tomlin punished him with these reduced snaps this week. What do you guys think's going on with Pickens?
That would explain a lot because he was invisible. I mean, invisible. And Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin, the one thing that I shouted at TV multiple times, and none of my kids appreciated it, is that it's not that we have concerning wide receiver depth. We don't have wide receivers. Last night was painful. We don't have wide receiver. I don't care what offense you're running. I don't care how conservative you are. I don't care. You have to have wide receivers. We don't have any. None that can get separation. None that can do anything. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Tomlin. I'm going to say the whole front office was arrogant this offseason. The arrogance of this front office to think they could just stride through, make one attempt at one wide receiver, and call it a day.
And we don't even really know how serious that attempt was.
No,
exactly. Right. We may have been. So this is what they get. I have been asking since 2020 for bad behavior to be punished in Pittsburgh for bad play, and we've gotten away with it a lot. 3-0 is getting away with it. I think all of us were so surprised. We just kind of tried to bring some logic to it, but we are right now seeing what we deserved for the last couple of years.
So do any of you think that him playing half the number of snaps yesterday cured him of his
absolutely
behavior?
Not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No, that
makes it worse.
It was similar to Chris Letang taking a pot shot at someone in the back during the end of a Flyers series.
Well,
that's what it felt like to me.
Together as narcissists there, Richard.
Well,
George Pickens is from Georgia.
Yeah, let's not discount we're all talking punishment. And, he's bad. He's an evil. He's not. Well, not according to Mike Tomlin. According to Mike Tomlin, they're putting him on a pitch count like they do Cam Hayward. I mean, come on.
Cam Hayward played more than double the number of snaps as George Pickens. He's 35 years old, and he's on a groin that he picked up from like Aldi's and had sewed in last year. So it makes no sense. The excuse
Van Jefferson had 40. I'm sorry.
Makes no sense. Go ahead, Dave.
Van Jefferson had 47 snaps yesterday. George Pickens had 34.
Yeah.
This is not the way to cure George Pickens.
Feed him the ball. That's the answer. You got to feed him the ball.
Najee Harris was the leading wide receiver yesterday.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
You don't have any choice but to feed Pickens. You don't have anybody else except for Freiermuth. That's it. Darnell Washington is a nice little fun piece, and I love Darnell Washington, but you can't throw that guy the ball 10 times a game.
Right.
You take an immature kid.
He does look lazy.
Yeah,
you take an immature kid and you put him in a.
I'm getting Randy Moss in his last year at the Raiders feel from George Pickens here, where in his head I feel like someone in his camp and George is saying, you know what, I could make money somewhere else. I could start showing off for other teams. Like, hey, remember what Randy Moss did? Randy Moss made his way out of George Pickens is not getting the. I'm so frustrated that I don't know what to say because I don't want to say this. Zach Azzani needs to step up more because he could be behind the scenes and he could be throwing his hands up in frustration saying, I don't really know what to do with this guy anymore.
Well, supposedly the reason Pickens was better, according to all the Pittsburgh media this year, is because Azzani's so good with him and he's got him whipped into shape. I mean, that was what we were all told.
Let me
he was screaming at him.
Let me play devil's advocate for a minute. I made this argument for Deontay Johnson, and I'm going to make it for George Pickens too. Put yourself in his position. His livelihood is dependent on someone getting him the ball in some kind of competent offense. And this is an immature kid. We know that. And now he's had to suffer through 2 years of a Matt Canada offense where he never saw the football. And then they just promised, it's a whole new offense, this, that, and the other thing. And it's the same thing all over again. And so when he reaches free agency, he's going to have no numbers. He's going to make no money. And that's all these guys care about.
He has not scored a touchdown yet.
That much of like a spoiled kid, you know what I mean? I gotta say, I think his behavior is kind of on par for most wide receivers in the league. I mean, the Larry Fitzgeralds are few and far between in this world. You know what I mean? The Hines Wards, people like that. But the other guys, all the other, diva receivers are getting fed the ball. I mean, we hear those stories from other cities all the time where they're throwing fits that they're not getting thrown the ball and stomping around. So, I mean, to me, Pickens is more the norm than the exception. And I agree with Dave. I don't blame him for being mad. I mean, this is his thing. This is how this man makes money. Do you know what I mean? This is his career. Now you've labeled him as a troublemaker and a problem child and a diva. And he's also at the same time not being allowed to produce because no one threw him the ball under Matt Canada.
And no wide receiver has gone through what George Pickens has gone through. Can you imagine Stephon Diggs in this offense?
And not only that, remember the Chiefs. What would we do if George Pickens went up and pushed Mike Tomlin like Travis Kelce did during the game to Andy Reid? What would we be doing right now if that happened? But Travis, we're not talking about it. No one's mentioned it again.
It's just football, Mac. That's what they said. That's what football players do.
But so in this situation, if that happened,
and
I don't know what I would do.
I see John asked me. I made a prediction before the year started that I thought Pickens would have 1,400 yards. I stand by it.
It's early. Yeah, it's early.
There's 12 games to go.
Yeah,
and I think, look. It's kind of the same thing I said about Broderick Jones, and there seems to be a common theme about Georgia guys going to Pittsburgh, and the whispers come out, hey, this isn't as organized as we had it in college, which, you want young kids highly regulated. I get it. But Najee has mentioned it. Broderick Jones has mentioned it. George Pickens hasn't mentioned it, but we treat him like that. I mean, what's really going on in the locker room? Is there really structure? And why, at this point, if I'm George Pickens and I spend my first 2 years in this offense and Matt Canada, it's all a Matt Canada problem. It's all a Matt Canada problem. We got this new guy for you. Hey, well, why are all these Matt Canada guys still here? Like Pat Meyer. I mean, what? All of a sudden, I'm supposed to buy into the team? And when all you're going to do is just ignore me again? I mean, he's had the games with the big targets. I thought he was pretty instrumental in getting double coverage when he was on the field. And he kind of, I saw that Warren Sharp thing that he put out that Zach mentioned. First couple of routes, there were some nice little out routes that Fields missed. Fields missed Najee Harris on a wheel route. Fields didn't play great last night.
Fields did not play well last night.
Yeah, I still think he should be the quarterback because I thought he played pretty good in the second half. But he didn't play great.
Right. His accuracy was really bad in the first half.
Yeah, and Pickens got worse and worse as the game went on, where he's kind of dogging it and going, you know what?
And we're not excusing that either. We're not excusing some of his behavior. It's not that. But again, it's the same thing with Deontay Johnson. He was watching his free agency go up in flames every week with Matt Canada, and he started to act out, as like we said, most of these wide receivers would.
Another person that to me stuck out that was I want to say a liability, but was disappointing, and except when he was used as a linebacker, was Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah Fitzpatrick's coverage was awful. There was a miscommunication there that you could see in his face. You knew that it was all on him. And I
know the play you're talking about, the one where Beanie Bishop got burned by Turpin. I mean, come on, you had
a burn. The Beanie Bishop stayed in the flat. No, I mean the one where Dante Jackson pushed off, stayed in the flat, and there was that
on the
wide
left side,
open sideline. Yeah, that play was all Minkah. That was Minkah. I'm not talking about the one you're talking about, but the one you're talking about, I'll give you.
Jackson
That
thought
one,
Minka was going to pick him up, and he didn't.
Yep. I watched Jackson. I watched Jackson push and never turned his head. And that means he thought someone behind him was going to pick up who he had just left off. So that one, and when I saw Minka's face after that, I yelled so loud at the TV because that's disappointing. I rely on Minka to not make those mistakes. Minka's supposed to be the quarterback back there. And when that happens, that worries me about something deeper going on in that backfield. And then I think, well, it's been a while since Minka's forced a turnover, and we've said it's because he's been out of position. I start asking a lot more questions when the wins aren't happening and covering up things. And that the only positive about losses to me is that we start asking the real questions about things that we've probably been overlooking before.
Well, on that play too, I think they brought it up on the broadcast. The tight end kind of flashed open in the middle of the field, and Minka was kind of caught between him and the player on the sideline. So again, is it Minka or is it whoever's covering that tight end blew it, and now he's trying to cover for both?
I don't know a lot about defense, but I do know that there's very, very rarely do they have a safety say, listen, you're going to play option zone. And if the guy in front of you needs it, if you got deep zone, you got fucking deep zone. I don't care what that tight end is doing. Take your eyes off the tight end, Minka. That is not your fucking job.
And this is that hybrid Tampa 2, the cover 2, that Tomlin should not be playing in a 3-4. It comes from him, and there's a hole in the cover 2. When the quarter starts to drop and says, okay, this is the end of my drop now, I'm supposed to be in the flat, the safety's supposed to shift over. The way you beat that defense is down the middle, or that little sideline shot between the quarter and the safety. And that's what they're doing but Minka's getting caught up looking at the tight end, and he can't get over and play both. You got to give up one of them. One of those two is going to be open. If Minka had shifted over, theoretically, Prescott hits the tight end for a big game.
Yep. So it's scheme. You're right, Bob. It's scheme. And teams have figured out how to scheme the Steelers into bad positions. And now you're starting to see that C word that we've heard forever, communication. Because of communication breakdown. How many times as Steeler fans have we heard, the communication on defense is lacking? It's because the scheme is so bad that these players have too many decisions to make.
Do you guys know how many coaches the 49ers have? They've got like 41 coaches on their staff to our like 20. Like all the top offenses in the league, there is a correlation to where they have a shit ton more coaches to communicate across the board and to monitor these players to make sure they're paying attention and getting their assignments right for the game. Tomlin's letting these guys manage themselves. They've said that. They let the leaders of the team keep these guys in check. The 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs and all these other teams, they don't do that. They've got almost one guy per like every 3 players just to communicate everything and keep them in check and make sure they're paying attention to their assignments in practice. We don't do this. That's why every fucking season, it's the same shit every time a new player comes to this team. Well, in practice, we really need to focus and practice and really give it our all and work on a lot of stuff. They don't fucking do it. They don't fucking do it. Every season, it's the same shit.
Just to throw something out, this is a little off topic. I'm so tired of hearing penalties. We got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. Maybe if we concentrate on that, we can start worrying about kicking their butt. You know who's responsible for penalties? Coaching. Coaching stops penalties. No well-coached team has a lot of penalties.
Only that, last night, I legitimately feel for the first time in a long time, we're on our side. A lot of calls on our side. A lot of calls went our way. A lot of big plays that weren't called back, and we still couldn't take. So every excuse that we had in those first little bit, no excuse. There was multiple times I looked at the TV and I was like, hey, the officiating is going our way. Like, it was noticeably in our favor. So to quickly touch on what we were talking about before, and I want to know how you guys feel about it. I'm starting to get back to where I get to when I get in my doubts about this, that there is literally no Mike Tomlin coaching tree. There isn't.
No.
Every other coach with this long in the league has a very impressive coaching tree, and I don't know why.
I don't know about impressive
that,
if you look at New England.
Yeah, New England
well,
has had it.
no,
Coaches,
I mean
but not.
impressive. I don't mean quality of it. I mean size of it.
Yeah.
Quantity, not quality.
In fairness, though, to Mike Tomlin, in fairness, Chuck Noll didn't have a great coaching tree either. He had Tony Dungy, but the rest of the guys, he didn't produce it either. Bill Cowher was the best Steelers coach at coaching coaches.
Yeah. It's some people claim that he has his coaches picked for him. I am not one of those people that believes that. I don't think anybody in this organization tells Mike Tomlin anything, especially not the last 10 years. There's no way. The last 5 years for sure.
I agree with Dave.
He picks his own coaches.
So,
you can't tell me.
Yeah.
So
You can't tell me Art's going down
this,
and tell him who to pick, and it's not happening.
So what does this mean for the season going forward? Because for me right now, I'm at an impasse because I don't want another middling season. I don't want another mid-round draft like middle of the thing draft pick that we don't know what we're going to do with.
Yeah, unless you're rooting for Tank. Unless you're tanking.
You know, smack in the middle of Midland. I don't know if it gets much more Midland than this.
That's kind of where I am right now. I want change, real change, even if it's
You're not
change
gonna
that
get it.
makes
Let
this
me ask
a
you guys a
bad
question, because somebody
season.
asked me this morning, and it made me kind of think. If we talked before the season and I said to you, where do you think we'll be through 5 games? What would your prediction have been?
Oh, hey, I predicted September 8th. I put the picture on there, right?
Yeah.
Dave, when I sent you that text, I predicted them to be 3-2, and I've gotten it 5-0 on the September 8th call. I don't know how I did it, to be honest, but
yeah,
I've actually nailed it.
Yeah, but they changed the expectations when they went 3-0, right?
I
changed
think I had us
it
at
in
3-2
season
as well.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
like I changed it in season after they went the way they went. I was like, oh wow, okay.
now we're going 5-0. I had us at 3-2
Man.
as well, and so I thought, I think that because the way we lost, it feels so ugly and emotional. Do you know what I mean? If we had played, it's like you tell, I don't know, if you have kids and you tell your kids, like, as long as you try your best, I won't be mad at you. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they're not trying their best, and I don't mean that literally, because I understand the players probably individually, in most cases, are out there, but it feels confused.
I think people's expectations for certain games were different. Like with, say, the Falcons, right? We thought, they got Cousins. They added Judon. They added all these players, right? We thought this is in Atlanta, so this might be a tough game for them to win, but they did it. Denver was like, well, it's in Denver, stingy defense. It's all on Bo Nix, right? What can he do? We might have some trouble. Maybe we won't, but we won it. And then you just keep going down the line of games, and you're just like, okay, this game is a game they should win. Even the Colts game, I was even worried about it a little bit for the fact they were getting Josh Downs back and had all their offensive weapons. But this game, when almost all their defensive stars minus Diggs are not playing, I mean, they got CeeDee Lamb. They lost Cooks. They only had one wide receiver, so we thought that we'd have to really worry about. So the expectations were just different for this game. This is a game at home that you should win easily, and it just didn't do it.
Look,
that's a great point.
I'll say this. Okay, so we're 3-2 right now. Honestly, I thought I adjusted expectations up to think we were going to be 4-1, but we're 3-2. Okay, so we go to Vegas next week. Let's just say things, the ship gets righted and we win that game. We're 4-2. Now we're looking at 6 games against the AFC North. Let's say we go 4-2 like we usually do. Maybe 5-1, but realistically 4-2. So now we're 8-4. There's 5 games left on the schedule. The Jets, the Giants, maybe a split. Maybe we sweep those guys. The Chiefs, the Eagles. Do we really think we're going to beat them?
No.
Which brings it all down to the Commanders.
I don't think I could beat the Commanders at this point.
The thing is, with the amount of games between now and the Chiefs and Eagles, it could go one of two ways. It can go, well, I don't even know why you're asking, Bob. We're one of the worst teams in the NFL. Or Bob, earlier in the season I would say no, but right now I say we can give at least one of those two teams a shot. There's too many games between there for me right now to say Chiefs and Eagles. There's no way we can beat them.
But you
I
want
right
to
now I don't.
beat the Chiefs. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's what we always do. You can't
This is not
some crappy Dallas team that's all banged up, but we'll somehow give the Chiefs a run for their money.
And it's not the normal Chiefs, so you never know.
And still,
this is a weird Chiefs.
It's been a weird Chiefs since Tyreek Hill left, and they won Super Bowls in a
Yeah,
row.
they still managed to win a couple Super Bowls. Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest with you. Kansas City's running game right now is Kareem Hunt, fullback, and maybe Edwards-Helaire at some point. Would you rather have the Chiefs running back and Andy Reid calling plays, or are Najee Harris first-round pick running backs without Jalen Warren and Cordarrelle?
I'd rather have Andy Reid and Dave running.
Yeah.
And I'm only half joking because Andy Reid as a play caller compared to anyone else we've had in the last 50 years, 20 years at least, is a massive mismatch.
And the real question is, would they let him call the plays like he wants to?
Well, that's a great question.
And that's the thing, dude. Like, again, it's back to Tomlin. It just is. He's telling his guys to be conservative, no turnovers, stuff like that, and hopes the defense can win it for him. That's a Tomlin football game.
All right, we've bashed Tomlin pretty good.
Yeah.
What about Omar Khan?
Omar Khan
in the holes in this roster.
Yeah.
Beanie Bishop is the starting corner.
It's a joke.
Slot corner on this team. We brought it up before. I think he had 111 passer rating against him. The receivers he covered had 90 yards rushing and only 2 incompletions. How does this happen? How is Van Jefferson wide receiver 1 now? He had the most snaps out of any wide receiver. How do these holes happen?
It's one of two things. It's either, like I said before, straight up arrogance, or it's a compromise. It's him and Tomlin got together, and Omar Khan's like, "Here's exactly what I want." And Tomlin's like, "Well, or Rooney. I don't know how it works. Does Omar Khan have carte blanche? I'd be very surprised if Omar Khan has carte blanche for all of that." So I feel like this is Omar Khan sitting down saying, "Here's exactly what I want," and whoever you believe is sitting across the table in some section saying, nah, here's what I will give you. And he had to make concessions for some reason in areas. And I'm trying to speak logic to it.
So what about all the talk that like we're not worried about this wide receiver room? Like you're not seeing what we're seeing, which is what they said in the preseason. We're not worried. These guys are better than you think they are.
Tomlin said it last week in the press conference.
Omar Khan did too. Omar Khan did too.
Yeah, they both have been arrogant.
I think you answered your question. It's arrogance. It's arrogance.
Company and company line. Everyone said, "Listen, we're going to get asked about this. We know we're not doing well in these areas. No one buckle company line. We're fine with it. We like what we see." I can see a memo circulated among the coaches that says that.
You guys have seen the chart, right? The separation chart where it shows separation. I'm trying to remember what the bottom stat was.
Yeah,
it's the worst in the league. I think it was the worst
just
in the league.
throws the more covered receivers than any other NFL quarterback, Dave. You're absolutely
I did see that chart too. Yeah.
Van Jefferson was wide receiver 4 for the Rams last year. He's wide receiver 2, maybe 1 at this point.
Yeah.
That's unforgivable.
There's no reason for that. And you think any other football team, the second they saw what they had in their wide receivers and the second Roman Wilson got hurt, you are, number one, you're not just going for 1 or 2. You might have 2 top ones. Stockpile. Bring in a bunch of guys. We didn't do anything. We just sat there and was like,
Stockpile garbage.
We stockpiled 3 and 4 wide receivers.
It was the mid-off. We brought in as many mid guys as we could.
Right.
Oh my God. Remember at one point, Dave, I almost had a nervous breakdown when I signed Scotty Miller. I was done.
Yeah.
I was like, now they're just doing it to tweak me. They're
now they're just messing with you, Dave.
Now it's personal. Now they're just trying to get me.
Now I'm begging them to get Scotty Miller more involved, please.
Right.
Good Lord.
So let's talk about our quarterback situation a little bit before we wind up running out of time tonight. Justin Fields has been starting all season with the Russell Wilson injury. Now, what do you guys think? Do you think that with the 2 losses in a row, do you think Russell will get a chance? Do you think Russell should get a chance? Do you think that Mike Tomlin will give him a chance?
Win the 7th, baby. Win the 7th.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any
Justin Fields?
Yeah, I don't think it's any
on the broadcast.
Yeah.
I
That's
did.
his new slogan.
That's his new slogan. Yeah.
Who's?
Russell
Russell
Wilson.
Wilson.
Oh,
Russell
yeah.
Wilson.
Russell Wilson told the broadcast team that he's ready to go next week, and that his
Right.
new
Win the
motto
seventh.
is "Win the 7th."
Hey,
Who
He's
the
starting.
fuck
He's
does
starting
that?
next week.
Like,
Book it.
what the hell?
Look,
sorry.
I don't think it's any coincidence.
he took
this
some
happens
lessons from
going into
Mr.
the
Big
Vegas.
Chest.
Yeah. I mean, this is going into the Vegas game. It gives. I mean, if I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on for a minute here, if I wanted to get Russell Wilson on the field, I would play ultra conservative against the Cowboys and hope we pull it out, but say the offense wasn't good enough. I don't think Tomlin in a million years thought his defense would give up a 4-point lead with 5 minutes to go and Dallas would run the clock out in the process. So now Wilson's on the field. He's probably going to look pretty good against Vegas. Why? Because outside of Max Crosby, which is an issue, they don't
It's
have much of a
It's
pass rush.
Raiders. The Raiders,
What?
though. We play weird
Yeah.
against the Raiders.
No.
They
The
do play
Raiders
weird
were
against the
only a
Raiders.
problem for Ben. Don't get it twisted.
Mm,
Ben had a problem with the Raiders.
I think-
He was snake bit for whatever reason. He couldn't beat the Raiders.
Every Raiders quarterback goes off, though. Almost every single one of them goes off. Does
Well,
Bob ever take his
Flip it
tinfoil
on.
hat off?
I don't take mine
Yeah,
off
I
either,
think we-
Bob. Don't
Yes,
that's
to
the-
shower.
Comment of the
Yeah.
night.
I don't take mine off either. Don't feel bad.
If you ask me that a little bit, it will not surprise me if Russell Wilson starts. It's not the right decision.
I don't think so either.
I think that Justin Fields is. I don't think that was his best game, but I think a lot of players regressed. I think Joey Porter's tackling regressed. George Pitt. It was a game of regression for guy, and I like to try and speak logic. I wonder how much of it is fatigue from having to carry parts of that team and just saying, I don't, you know what? I am sick and tired of fucking carrying this section. Other people carry it today. I need a bit, and it's not a professional reaction. I'm just thinking of the human reaction to 4 weeks of literally carrying an entire team on your back for these certain players that we saw regression from, because it was out of character for Joey Porter to suddenly become rookie tackle again. And that wasn't even a rookie tackle. That was just a half-hearted, well, I'm going to wonder what peanut punch looks like.
So here's a stat
that wasn't even close.
Here's a stat that I think is really going to maybe doom Fields where they might make the switch. The average estimated points added per play, the Cowboys were 0.124. The Steelers were negative 0.013. Negative. The average.
This
You
is
can't
what
ignore
I
it.
worry about. This is what I worry about, because there's a part of my very rational brain that's like, fuck it, just play Wilson, right? What do you have to lose, right? Justin Fields hasn't played that well. Let's just see what Wilson can do. That's why we brought him here. We didn't name Justin the starter. There's no harm. But then there's this part of my brain that says, okay, so let's say we play Wilson and he's not 100%, or he's just old and he gets hurt again. Do you know what I mean? Now have we dinged up Justin Fields like newly forming confidence? Do you know what I mean? And how do we
Yes.
get that back? Do you know what I mean? I thought Micah Parsons talked about it on his podcast last week, and I thought it was really interesting considering they were coming into Pittsburgh to play. He said that he feels like Chicago did Fields so dirty, like they stripped him of all this confidence this kid coming out of Ohio State by totally putting him in this horrible system and screwing him over. And he said, now here he is at Pittsburgh. He's getting better and better and better, and he's getting more and more confident. He said you could see his confidence growing. So what happens to this kid if he's really somebody we consider the future of our franchise, and then we
Nothing
bench
good.
start
There's no
up?
good-
You're gonna ruin
There's no
him.
good-
You're gonna ruin him.
It was
You're gonna
it
ruin
was
him.
talked about. It
If
was
we
talked
pull
about
like
in
the
the
Washington
pregame.
Redskins on him and he's ruined.
It was
Yeah.
It was talked about in the pregame that with a kid like this, what we went through in Chicago, number one, they went straight at Mike Tomlin in the pregame, like, what are you doing? Saying every single press conference, oh, we're not sure if it's Justin Fields. Why are you putting that on that kid? He needs your backing right now,
Yeah.
and you're trying to soothe Russell Wilson's ego? That's the ego you're choosing out of this? So
I think he's trying to choose no ego. Do you know what I mean? Is what I think he's trying to do. I think he's trying to choose no ego. But I agree.
the problem- Yep. When you choose no sides, you're actually choosing one of the two.
Right,
even
exactly.
if you feel like you're not, and he is choosing Russell Wilson. So I
Right.
think
I wonder
That's
if-
a really good point.
Justin Fields is performing great considering his head coach. I don't care what you say to him privately. It matters to a young kid after what he went through in Chicago that your coach has your back with that media, that when he gets those questions, he's not squirrely Tomlin. He's not sausage making and shit. He's, I got my quarterback's back.
There's no
It's not that
positive way
hard.
out of this. There's no positive way out of this, though. If
I
you
wonder if
choose-
Justin Fields was pressing yesterday because he knew. I say Justin Fields was pressing because he knew Russell Wilson was on his heels and coming up and getting healthy and could be coming in. He just didn't look
that's
right.
Bad form.
Last
That
night.
is bad form by Wilson. Then bad veteran. What are you?
I don't know that Wilson necessarily did anything.
No,
when
I
he
don't think Wilson did
anything
anything wrong.
I think you might feel that pressure. I think Dave could be right. You'd feel that pressure internally because they talked about that with Mitch Trubisky when he first started playing. One of the reasons they felt like he performed so badly was that you had Kenny Pickett breathing down his back, and then remember Pickett got hurt that game and couldn't play, and Mitch went off. You know what I mean?
But here's what I was trying to say was there's no positive way out of this. Either if he sticks with Fields, Russell Wilson's gonna request a trade by the trade deadline.
Yep.
Good. We need a wide receiver.
And if he goes with right, and if he goes the other route, it's going to kill Fields' confidence. There's just no positive way out of this now.
Yeah.
You're on a 2-game losing streak, right? The offense is not producing, so you have your window, but at the same time, you're going to destroy one kid's confidence if you go the other way. But if you decide, hey, this is better for the franchise to go with Russell Wilson, okay, but you know what you're doing to Fields. But if you do the opposite,
Wilson's really healthy.
Trade.
If Wilson's really healthy, I think that's the caveat here.
He's telling everyone he is.
Yeah.
I know.
He's telling
tell
everyone
the
he is.
broadcast team
Wouldn't
that.
you? I would.
To tell the broadcast team that, and then the whole win the 7th, I mean, that's some ballsy things to do if you're still not quite ready yet.
Yeah. And then Richard here has a good point about why. Yeah, Richard, I totally agree with you, and I think everybody on the show does. But the problem is logic and the Steelers don't collide in the same sentence very often.
And also, I feel like this is a little bit like a boiler room. Like the Steelers front office is a bunch of guys who are illegally trading, and we're 3-0, and they're sitting around like, okay, we haven't got caught. Keep trading. Then perform. And now they're like, okay, the FBI knows it's us. Cover. So that's how I see it because they got away with it, and now they're not. So I like what we're doing here. We need to call out what we're seeing, but also I like how Leanne spoke logic directly to my knee-jerk reaction there that maybe we shouldn't just throw Tomlin off a building and see how the team does. So now, granted, I gotta say, I told my family at the beginning of last season that I was preparing myself for a devastating low-win season with a high draft pick, and I was emotionally ready for that because of what it would mean later.
But they got your hope.
I know I would not hope for that, but I think for a Steeler fan, the way I take this game, it's going to take preparation and getting ready for that because I don't. The last time I remember the Steelers having a losing season that was Bill Cowher, and I remember that still hurt my soul.
Yeah, well, yeah, but,
Bill Cowher.
Yeah,
Bill Cowher, and I
thought you were going to say last place.
No, I think that was Terrell Owens when Terrell Owens was on the 49ers and he beat us. And the worst sound I ever heard was silence in a Steelers sports bar. So I'm okay with the results of a devastating season. I never hope for it, but I want it more than I want another non-losing 9-8. I don't want that. To me, that's failure to me, and that would be stroking Mike Tomlin's ego and keeping him around again. I want Mike Tomlin challenged. I want Mike Tomlin to have a losing season and have to bounce back from that. Have a losing season, keep him around, and see what he does after that gets ding. Maybe it's a monkey on his back. A lot of teams that have gotten to 11-0, 12-0, 13-0 in the season say it's not fun at that point. Everyone's asking me. It's always on my back about are we going to lose the next game? And maybe that's what he needs. Maybe we need to get punched in the face and lie on the mat for a season and then see how Mike Tomlin gets. Because he can stand up after 9-8. Can he stand up after 6-11?
Well, Tomlin will never let it happen.
We had a couple of good points in chat. One was that Russell Wilson is 0-3 versus the Raiders as the Broncos quarterback, and why would we expect him to be better this time? And then Winter Down South pointed out
It's a
that
great
the only
point.
time Fields played the Raiders, he beat him 20-9 with the Bears. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't love the idea of throwing Wilson out there. And
Let's say this though, just to piggyback on that, Bob. That you
Yeah.
know, beat them in the past and beat them with different teams, or lost to them in the past and lost to them with different teams. In the case of Wilson, so out of the two quarterbacks, who do you think is better equipped to beat the Raiders team that sits there currently?
Fields.
I think it's Fields because
Fields.
Max Crosby is a problem.
Yeah, 'cause-
Max Crosby is going against Dan Moore. We don't think he's going to get pressure.
And not only that, I'm trying to think of this.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think of this football team that's really down right now. Everyone's mad. Everyone's upset. And this is just in my head. I see next week everyone's serious. In comes Russell Wilson. Okay, guys, come on, let's go, team. Here we go, Steelers. They're gonna want to hit him in the huddle if he does that. We don't need that style right now. We need a guy who's been with them for the last 5 games, knows where they are, and isn't going to try and inject some kind of rah-rah. That's just what I see. I suddenly pictured that in my head, that everyone else is staring at Russell Wilson, who's trying to do this cheerleader thing in the huddle.
I'm
And
making
it's
Russ
Russell
the
Wilson. He
backup.
probably would.
If I'm them, I'm making Russ the backup. Go in there. If the offense again sputters, then put him in and see if he
That makes
sparks.
sense.
That's what I would do.
And,
I mean,
let's-
go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's be honest. We all get on Pickens for, he's got this bad attitude. He doesn't get used properly. So now you're going to take another young guy, Justin Fields, wreck his confidence, put Wilson on the field, and let's say the worst case scenario happens. The God forbid we lose to the Raiders happens. Now we got 3 games in a row. Wilson came in, was ineffective. Now you're going to turn around and go to Fields. And Fields is going to go, hey, no problem. Thanks. I'm back out there for the team. I can't audible. Watch this.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, you
Bob,
can't
know
put.
what? Not normally a tinfoil hat thing, but that particular one. Just hold on to that particular part of that, because
I will say I
there-
think Fields is still playing for his future. Do you know what I mean? I think he has a lot more to lose
I like
than
that.
Russell Wilson does. Russell Wilson could retire tomorrow, live off his wife's money,
Oh, yeah.
live off all the money he's made. He's no slouch himself. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying Fields hasn't done well, but Fields is young. I mean, he's still wrapping up his rookie contract. Do you know what I mean? He wants to prove himself. He wants longevity in this league. So I don't see him giving up, but I do see it seriously impacting him negatively if we bounce him around.
So where we are right now, a quick fun question. If tomorrow we woke up to the news that they signed Justin Fields to a long-term contract, do you feel as happy about it as you would have a week ago?
How much money?
Yeah.
Same amount that we were talking before. The amount has not changed. They just decided to do it after a loss. Do you
We
still
got
feel
3 years?
like you did before?
Yeah.
3
I'm
years,
okay
100
with it.
million. Woo!
I like it. Okay. I
have a hard
just
time
wanted to make
imagining
sure
That's no potential.
so we are not all on knee-jerk island just yet. So I
Next, they're vacationing alone.
I'm in the shallows. I want to go on the beach, but I'm not there just yet.
Dave, what
I
were you
Yeah,
going to say?
No, I
Yeah,
don't
what were you gonna say?
front office.
I don't
so.
see how you could put a 35-year-old quarterback with a bad leg behind this offensive line and expect good things to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know why
I
you
don't
could
see the
put 'em
logic,
on
but
a
again, we've talked about,
walking sled, and they did anyway.
logic. I don't
Yeah,
know.
look,
It doesn't make any sense
I'm
to me.
not ready to make the change because Justin Fields has had a 90+ passer rating in all 5 games. It took Kenny Pickett 3 and 12 to get to that. Just for comparison. So I think that Justin's fine. Did he have an off game? Yeah, absolutely. But he still had his off game is still better than what we've had. That's my thing with Fields. Like
And
even
it
in
wasn't his off game alone. Like,
No,
Correct.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's a great exactly. And so that's my thing. And to Dave's point, there's just no way I'm ready to switch that out yet for the 35-year-old that's coming off.
When they
injury.
win, he's
I
the
agree.
whole offense.
Right.
Passing, running.
responsible
Correct.
for all of our touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
that's a banana statistic.
If we are 4-4 going into the bye week, it's going to be the longest bye week
of our lives, because it's every single day is going to be different back and forth. So I hope it's one way or the other, that we either know, oh, we're not a good football team whatsoever, or hey, we got this on the upswing. Because if we're just I don't know if I can handle that. That's going to be a lot of emotional energy.
Zach, if we're
for
4-4 going into the bye week, we're fucking toast, bro.
Yeah. That means we lost to
Oh,
the
no,
Giants or the Raiders or both.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
We're not
talking
gonna
about
be done with it. I'm gonna be there.
the Fields of it, the quarterback of it, the Russell Wilson of it. It's going to be and that's 2 weeks, not just 1 week. That'll be 2 weeks of it.
Yep.
That's going to be a lot.
So before we wrap up for this evening, any last thoughts? Any last thoughts? We'll put a pin in this game and be done with it. Like our emotional release. Is anybody, Dave? Any final thoughts?
No, I think we hit it pretty good. I just hope that they don't make the. Go ahead.
Dave, go ahead. You finish.
I just hope they don't make the quarterback change. That's all I wanted to throw in there. I think that's just a recipe for disaster.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I don't see how it could get much worse. And every time I think that, like the Cardinals or the Patriots happens, I do think we'll beat Vegas. I'm hoping we'll beat Vegas. If we don't beat Vegas, I really don't want. I said if Dan Moore started more than 4 games, we'd go 7-10 before the season started. Unfortunately, we have no other choice but Dan Moore to start more than 4 games. So I'm really hoping I'm wrong at this point. But good Lord,
does Tomlin get in the hot seat at all if they lose? If they lose to the Raiders, is he in the hot seat at all? He should be, but will he be?
Should be.
Tomlin has an air-conditioned chair.
I just know I have a
He
lot
really
of
does.
crow to eat this week. I have an article that I get to find a way to somehow backtrack from, that where I predicted a big game for Najee. There, it's whiplash for me, not because I legitimately thought, even though it would possibly be a trap game, that this was a statement that we could make. So it's in a bit weaker of a reflection. That's where I am.
Mike Tomlin is the eternal, unstoppable force. He will never, ever be fired. That man will go out on his own terms. That's just the way it is.
I agree.
After last year's 0-3 against the horrible teams, 2 of them really bad in our house, and he didn't get fired then, he will not be fired if he does anything remotely that this season as well. Another thing, real quick, last thing I wanted to say too, is we had 3 turnovers, a blocked field goal, and they had 11 penalties, and we still lost this game. That can't happen.
Pretty hard to do. At home. Pretty hard to do.
At home.
Yeah.
What happened last night is rare. Very rare. So, again, that's why I feel like Fields could be in the dog. Like they could make the switch. But we'll see. Bentley's getting all fired up too.
All the viewers that sent in comments, that chatted with us, Zach's mom. We certainly appreciate everybody chiming in. It makes the show so much better when you guys do that. You can find all of our social media handles under our name. You can follow the Steeler Sanctuary and the Steeler Sanctuary podcast separately on Twitter. Follow us both so you don't miss anything. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube because it helps us with the algorithm so we show up for more Steeler fans. If you're watching this after it's been recorded and is no longer live, please still drop comments to us because we'll go back and check those. We'll talk about them on the next episode. We'll have some small mini things coming up this week, prepping for our big pre-Raiders episode at the end of the week. So thank you all so much.